Tervehdys, Laura.
Terve, Otto.
And welcome to our dear listeners to another episode of Spirit of Sauna podcast. In this podcast, if you're a first-time listener, we're talking deeply about sauna. We never just want to be on the surface level. We want to explore the sort of the deeper aspects and also like the concepts that we use relating to sauna and their roots and all of this. So ongoing process of discovering the real essence of sauna.
Essence of sauna and also really sauna as a life culture.
Right.
Not just a sort of gymnastic act that you do or a technological performation, but we want to see the life culture that sauna represents.
Yeah, that's true. And talking about life culture, we also cultivate that here at Sipojoen perinnesauna, so the Sipojoki Heritage Sauna. We usually mention this in the end of the episode, but I think we're gonna start to do it just before we start as well. So our sauna healer training. There's been so many really wonderful phone calls and emails that we have received since our last episode, where we talked about sauna and the hidden folk, especially. Yes. It went perhaps mini viral for us. It's just a small podcast, but delightfully many people have also contacted us and asked about the sauna healer training. And yes, we have renewed the training. There's the new dates are at the website, and if you're going there and check it out, just scroll to the end of the page, and you also see the information about the retreat coming this June. We only have 1 or 2 places left.
Yeah,
perhaps
it looks quite sold out.
Quite sold out. You can send a message to us, and perhaps we can organize something.
There is one who is unsure, so
okay.
So unfortunately, might be one spot. So it's quite close to sold out. I would say it is sold out, but there is in August our intro.
Yes.
To Saunatus. So if you're interested just to come and explore, it's a 3-day intensive where we dive deep into the Saunatus concept, which is a group ritual based on Finnish sauna healing tradition. Yeah. And then the more extensive studies continue on October when we have our sauna healing retreat. And we have now really wanted to facilitate people who want to also, go all the way. Yeah, get the full experience of it. And nowadays it is possible if you want to have the overall sauna healer training consists of 3 separate retreats, which are hosted in October, February, and June. And now after each retreat, if you want to stay, it is possible to extend your stay and go through the whole training at one go. Yeah, especially for our American friends, this has been a relief. So you don't have to travel all the way to Finland for 3 separate occasions. And why is this makes us so happy is that this is exactly what we're want to do here, and even in a grander scale, because we have noticed, as we talked, I guess it was last autumn when we had our episode, I can't remember which one, but we have traveled quite a lot in the Baltic countries, also to Germany, and not so much to the Slavic countries yet. We got an invitation to Kazakhstan, or maybe that's not a Slavic country, but anyways, where the banya culture is very alive and well. But nevertheless, we've noticed that this is sort of an angle to the sauna culture that is not represented well in the world, and we're so happy that we have the chance to do this. And also that people have showed interest, and we're really happy to do it again and again until to the point that this dear Sipojoki Heritage Sauna of ours is just for trainings, and the public sauna will do somewhere else, because that's why we built this place. That's why we're doing what we do, is that we want to share this perspective to sauna that is not widely available. Yeah, and also bring it back to life, bring it back to sort of give the breath of life back to this amazing culture that is sort of now a little bit dormant.
Yeah.
And so we want to awaken it and make it again alive and practical for people. And I have to still say to this tree retreat concept that if you have a chance to come 3 times to Finland, it is really good, because then you have the different seasons.
Yeah, right.
Finnish sauna culture is a lot to do with seasons.
Mm-hmm.
We are very seasonal
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
We have very prominent different seasons, you know.
Yeah.
So it is very vital. When you come 3 times, you get sort of the full grasp of what the Finnish seasons are about. So in that way, it is highly recommended, but definitely we do understand that Finland is far.
Yeah.
So
An island somewhere here in the north.
Yes.
This is just how it is. Yeah. But actually, when it comes to this island nature of Finland, the sort of topic of this today's episode is very, apt in this sense, because what do you think, Laura? Like, when you think about the word shamanism, what comes to your mind?
Many things. Well, nowadays, for me, maybe it's quite, how would I say, endearing, familiar word.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been for very long time. For me, if you would ask me a few years ago, I would have said that, well, maybe someone with some drum, maybe some, Sami folk, maybe something like that, or maybe some
a little crazy,
or at least a little bit,
Cookie.
questionable. Yeah, someone, and this is not to say Sami folk.
Exactly.
Not to context, but this was like Sami folk, comma.
Yeah, exactly.
There was something strange about it, that people doing shamanism maybe. I couldn't really grasp that what is it about?
Yeah.
And is it just some sort of like that you have these shamanic traditions in the maybe in the America and maybe Mexico and maybe somewhere exactly Sami and like that, and then some new age version of it is now, and so for me it was very, very big question mark there.
yeah, it's kind of a mishmash, and because I have the same, of course, in Finland for some reason, Sami people come up all the time when you think about shamanism. Yes. It's sort of a very like loose association, but that's what I said, a little bit kooky or something, because that's also the Finnish sort of, we don't know about anything about the Sami culture. We don't know about their seers and these kind of. And the word shamanism, that's actually really interesting. Why exactly this word has come to denote these kind of healers or seers of a tribe? Because the word shamanism actually comes from the Evenki people from Siberia. And there's this Finnish grand old man of like folklore, this folk studies called Juha Pentikäinen, who has studied this shamanism a lot. And actually he says it's not a good idea to say shamanism, because then, capitalism and socialism and then shamanism doesn't make any sense. Then like being a shaman, yes, it's something particular. But then, for example, in the Finnish context, it would be, for example, with the Sami people, would be a lot more suitable to use the word nate or noita, which is the Finnish sort of equivalent.
Yeah.
So it's kind of strange that, most of us don't even know about the Siberian cultures, anything, but we use this word. So it kind of reminds me again about some words from yoga, like mantra. Mantra is like, it's a very specific word. It means about a certain kind of mind state that you're traversing and so on. So it's a very technical term.
Like karma also.
Yeah, karma. Yeah, same thing, karma as well. And somehow this has become this common sort of lexicon of ours that we think, yes, shamanism, it's exactly this. And then you start to sort of think about it. What do I actually know about that? It's some kind of, So our culture produces this. It's strange how modern culture produces these sort of almost like idiomatic words that don't seem to have real content. And then you can just, anybody can say anything with the words. And I was just recently talking to a friend of mine, American, and he was saying, like in this podcast, for example, that we really, you know, we take the words and we really think, what does this mean? And of course, a good question would be, why do I care, like how people use the word shamanism or whatever? But I tend to be this kind of guy that I don't think that we can use words like loosely. It's not like we can say everything is shamanism. For me, it sounds something like everything is karate. It's nonsensical. It doesn't make sense to me. So you know, in order to be able to talk about these things, it's better that we actually sort of define our words. And sauna, and something now maybe a little bit clickbaitily, we might call it now sauna and shamanism, the name of the title. But sauna and, you know, and noita or tietäjä is another word in Finnish. They do have something, you know. There is some content in this, and it's just maybe we could try to approach this with this idea that okay, there has been this shamanistic people in Finnish language. Maybe we could say noita or tietäjä. So, what would you say, Laura? What has been the role of this kind of person here in the north? Like, why does it seems that there's been a lot of these kind of people roaming around in these northern territories?
I think, at least when you look at the word noita, which translates as witch, and somewhere I read the etymology of witch, that it came from, what was it? Something like vihi, or I don't know, something like that, close to that anyway. And the translations for this word were sacred and wisdom, something like this. Yeah. So of course these wisdom holders have played a key role when it comes to, I think, any culture. Yeah. So of course not the least here, where life is very austere and rough. So they are well needed in practical ways, but also as the holders of the wisdom of the nation and of the culture. And this shaman or witch or sage, or what word you wanna use, I think this was nice that you said that in this podcast we're very interested in words. Because we are creatures of words. We create our world with words. We conceptualize our world with words. So it is not it is not the same what words you use. It's actually, it's all the time, all the words you use, they define the way you conceptualize world. So it's actually a very important thing. So words are not to be taken very lightly. Important to check the etymology and choose your words wisely and carefully. And I think this, what we can call in this episode now shamans, they have hold this wisdom of the words and world, and sort of they are the carriers of this.
Interesting idea. And also, like, when I think about like what is the common denominator, because of course we're trying to sort of put a circle around this kind of phenomenon, that you would have this in the community, you would have this kind of person who would be knowledgeable, for example, and also there's in the Finnish sort of mainstream views of maybe around the world, there's this idea of that the shaman or the seer would be able to travel to the sort of underworld to seek knowledge, or even transform to an animal or something like this. And it seems that like I've now sort of maybe 10 or 15 years I've looked around like this sort of spiritual community around Finland, and what is happening here, and what kind of things are the trends and so on. And it seems to me that in the past 10 years this idea of shaman, especially now I'm using the word really correctly, that shamanism, the word, has sort of, it's a renaissance. There's also like people who call themselves shamans and so on. Which didn't seem to be the case. It seemed to be a little bit of like a counterculture in the 90s, for example. If you would be a Wicca or a witch or something like that, it would be like maybe you're interested in Satanism or something like that.
Something dark.
Yeah, something dark and unpleasant.
Yeah,
but now it's not uncommon. Like I would think about like a Finnish like women's magazine, like the most famous ones, which have like hundreds of thousands of readers, and you would have the cover story, and there would be just a regular looking person and saying, "I'm a witch."
I'm a witch.
And I can see things.
Yes.
And now people, could happen. Yes. Yeah, could be, but I think it's maybe something to do with the idea that we have now sort of a crisis time going on, and maybe it could be even something like this, that we're looking for this super person, a hero who could take us away from this mundane world of ours. And yes, this is an echo of the ancient practices. But on the other hand, I would think like what would be the role of a Finnish like a sage or seer would be that it's sort of a spiritual what is it called, insurance of the community. That maybe something like now there's some acupuncture doctors that you pay, the community pays maybe, I don't know, $10 a month, and then when you get sick, then the doctor doesn't get paid until you're healthy again. But something like this, a model where you would have someone to call to in your spiritual problems. And that would be a person who's sort of in the world, in the sense that they're just great people, like really nice to, safe, and, reminds me of something like a doula could be, like a really like grounded and nice person. But on the other hand, not working, that the idea is that they would have to be able to concentrate on this art and skill of theirs with their full soul, because it's probably quite I actually know from experience it is quite rough to travel, sort of let loose of your analytical mind and go and seek and and almost like dig information, and then especially to distribute this information for the community. So maybe the sage would have this kind of role in the community, that there would be quite many of these people around, but they wouldn't have like a place, like a home and a family and a job, but they would have this very special role. And now, since we don't have communities like this, it becomes this kind of, I don't want to sound mean, but I still have to say this, but like a narcissistic pursuit, that I'm a very special person because I'm a shaman or something like that. And that the reason for this, that it's a commodity almost nowadays, would be that we lost this idea that the whole community needs somebody for the spiritual crisis that come once in a while, and also like relationship crisis could be a spiritual crisis as well, and that you would have some special person to call to. But is there like anyone that you could think about who would have the same role? Like probably not a doctor, but like do we have something like that nowadays, like a healer of this sort
in the modern culture? I'm not sure, because like if you think about the most famous shaman of the Finnish tradition, you immediately start thinking about the Väinämöinen himself, who traveled into the other worlds and harvested the words of wisdom, of words of knowledge that were lacking in order to create the boat that would carry the life forward. So I'm not sure. I would love to think that someone like a priest or somebody could host that post for a modern person.
Not really. Like when you think about
unfortunately
priests, that's maybe not in Finland, but in the States.
In the States, I want to think. I want to think that there would be people like that, but unfortunately, our culture doesn't encourage that, because most of what we do is based on, in our culture, we choose our role and identity and our profession based on our sort of our own individual needs and wants, and what do I like to do and what is my calling.
Yeah, right.
But these shamans that you were describing, these sages, these tietäjäs, who actually the whole community could rely on, they didn't choose it. They didn't.
They didn't even want it.
They didn't want it.
Yeah, right.
It was a task that was was cast upon them. They were born to do it. It wasn't something that, oh yes, I get to do this. Oh, this is my calling, and I'm so fired up about this. And it was like a burden that was there to carry, and it was a task that they had the strength to take and perform. And these runes that describe Väinämönen's journey is not a very pleasant journey for him. Right. It's a rough thing. Väinämönen, when he take this quest upon himself, it wasn't a joyous, jolly ride, and it wasn't something that brings glory and fame and happiness to him, or this sort of. It's just a task that he must perform, and I do believe that that is very often a sign of a person who is actually executing his or hers place in this world. And to be a holder of wisdom, to be someone who guides people in different levels of consciousness, and to shares the wisdom and holds the wisdom, this sort of wisdom keeper, you really have to have that it's your role, it's your task, and it's not something that inspires your limited own ego. Right. But it's something that you just must do in order for greater good, because that's the role that you've been born to.
And this is exactly like this, because when we were looking ourselves from this very limited perspective, we might make the conclusion that that the only meaning to life is what the meaning that we build ourselves. You only live once, and so on and so on. But in this sort of, I would say, ancient worldview, the idea is that everything has a meaning, and you're here for a reason, and that it's actually quite rare to be this kind of person that has this kind of meaning, that has to take this burden of the whole community and heal the community. And this reminds me of, for example, this idea nowadays, which now I guess it's popular culture, so I could even talk about this, but people from all around the United States and Europe are traveling to Peru, for example, for these ayahuasca ceremonies. And I've always a little bit like, I have a problem when people say it's an ancient practice to go and drink the brew. But how I've understood it is that actually that's the modern practice, that you go there and the whole group drinks the brew. Like in the ancient times, it would be the curandera who would drink the brew, and it would be the songs and the leaves that they're using to heal the community, that it's not the role of the community to do this kind of very extreme and difficult journeys, but there would be somebody who's actually trained in this. And this reminds me of also the Finnish, the stories about the Sami people who would have these seers and sages, and they would actually just take the Amarita muscaria, so the kärpäsieni in Finnish, and there's even the story that it would have to be a reindeer which eats the Amarita muscaria, and then the urine that comes out is the one non-toxic brew, which is psychoactive. Who knows? This might be a legend, but if it's true, then this is a very throughout journey. You really have to be trained from childhood onwards to be able to take this and actually coherently bring something useful for the community. Like that and the idea that this shaman or the sage would be some crazy person, that or somebody who lives outside of the community. I think this is a very modern notion, and it sort of goes lockstep with the breaking down of the communities that hold these kind of things dear to themselves. Nowadays, even the word community, it's not like we have a village where we know everyone and, we depend on each other for different kinds of needs, so that I would know, well, here it is like that. So if I need, earth materials, I called to my friend, or gasoline, I called to my guy there, and I need electrician, I call here. But even I don't have this kind of shaman guy to call to. It just doesn't happen,
unfortunately.
but with most people, especially when I used to live in Helsinki, and I didn't even know my neighbors. So if we're in a situation where even the idea of a real tight-knit community is sort of an anomaly, it doesn't happen that often, then that it's almost impossible to understand what does it mean to have this kind of person in your community to take care of each and every one, the members of the community. So I think we're just really far off from this these times where this was just had to be.
Yeah.
Like any culture that you have to be someone like this to do it.
Yeah.
And of course, in Finland, when this used to be the case, sauna would be the place where a lot of these rituals, healing rituals, would be performed. So, do you think that like a saunottaja or someone like a sauna sort of sauna healer would be usual to have this kind of sage kind of character
Of course,
around it?
Of course, and when you check what is written in the archives, yes, for sure, that has been their role, and there has been this sort of, how would I say, everyday shamanism amongst the people. Like sauna is a liminal space. Sauna is a gateway between the worlds, and there you sort of you enter into the womb of the original mother, and there sort of space and time disappear, and yes, you are transformed in another level of consciousness. And this sort of everyday shamanism has been very present here, and the elders of the family have been able to do something. And for example, delivery sauna, there was the elder women who used to host the journey, because delivery was considered like a shamanic journey also. The sauna itself it is. And but then when there was a special occasion, something was really heavy or really special, like some challenges or some difficulties, then they call upon these sages or tietäjä to perform the sort of next level ritual and do the quest of traveling to the other worlds, the tuonela, and to the underworlds where the sort of the ancestral, the higher, the sort of wholesome wisdom is there to be then gathered, and then they would have the facility to bring it to this concrete level. And so yes, indeed, sauna has been the platform for these shamanic journeys. And even in this modern day sauna practices, we do still do this journey, because when you read, for example, the runes and invocations that describe the sauna procedure, you actually you are very much connected to maybe a surprise for somebody, but the lullaby traditions. Lullabies are very often where the mother suits the baby to the underworlds. Sort of the baby enters into this shamanic journey of its own, to rest in the eternal resting place in the wombs of in the arms of the Mother Earth and original mother and the ancestors, and beautiful descriptions there, and then of course the baby is woken up again. But same way, this sauna healer, the sort of runes and spells and the story of the sauna journey that the sauna healer takes, or löyly, actually I would say, takes you to, is a little bit of this shamanic journey. But we have to understand that there are different levels. Like I would call it this sort of everyday shamanism, or then there is this very specific ritual type of shamanism when it's a big occasion in the yearly cycle, or big occasion in the lifespan, or something, maybe a big dramatic flood or starvation or a big illness or sickness. Then something heavier is needed, or whatever could be the occasion.
This is great insight, because I'm thinking maybe the thing is about survival, because these things that you actually described are big shocks to our sense of being able to survive. Like we don't get famines anymore in Finland, but we had the last one in Europe, and it's not, I think my grandfather's father, for example, had to go through a really, really difficult period at that time, and actually emigrated to the States because of this. So it's not that far off from our reality too, but it's too far off, so that we could understand something like this, that that we would need something really strong as a medicine to this existential fear of survival. So when we think about the role of this sage in this process, it's a person who is a master in letting go of the survival instinct and the analytical mind that accompanies it. Like if you're really well trained this since childhood, is no problem. You can just leave your analytical mind, and you don't have to survive because you're not working. Actually, you know, you're taken care of in that sense, and maybe you're trained so that you don't even need food that much. You know, you're almost like fasting all the time anyway. And us regular people, then our sort of mini journeys are connected to this state where you can actually just for a brief moment forget that you need to survive today and tomorrow as well, and just, you know, let go. And then you would have this sort of folk tradition of spells and you know, ways of aligning yourself with the greater mind, or some could even call God, and then you could just get a small taste of what actually this person who's trained for this for their whole life does on a regular basis. And you know, it's such a strong information or knowledge or wisdom that they're bringing from these states that it's not for your everyday use, because it could be counterintuitive. Like when thinking about some of these stories that we can find from the archives, they say, okay, the seer said that you need to collect this and this root and combine it with this and this and that, and everybody who's doing it's like, I don't know what's that, I don't know anything about that, but you know, I trust this person. For the past, I don't know, 10 or 20 years, you know, they come to our house when we had a, you know, child born or somebody died or something.
Usually it's been already in the family. They have been looking after your grandparents.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
You know,
or grandparents, you know, or you know, having this 100-year-old person coming like really like, we know since forever, you know, it's our family's age. So it's a very different thing. And it actually comes to our capacity to take this information to heart, really, and to for it to be useful. Because of course we get information from this wider sort of network, even when we're asleep, when we have this kind of different kind of visionary states, when we see something that we don't understand, but we just really cannot dress it to useful information for our everyday life so easily. And the really big tragedy of modern day is that, okay, we cannot do it, but we don't even have anyone to call to who could actually do it. So we're left with this, you know, playing this game of this material world, and we think about everything considering our survival, considering our well-being from this perspective. And it even as a side note, it could lead to this idea that, I need to call to someone, but I don't know who to call to. So maybe I call my politician. Can you give me more money or something so that I survive better, or whatever, to this celebrity, you know, to give me this grace, and, you know, or who is it actually that we call? And it's funny actually, just from that point, you know, India and the celebrity culture of India, because they have a celebrity culture for thousands of years, but those celebrities were actually like gods, so not real people. So now you have a Bollywood star, and the attitude might be the same. You would even might have the Bollywood star's picture on your home altar, and you would do the, you know, the blessings.
But we have also fan girls of different bands and like movie stars, and so
maybe
so
Taylor Swift is something like that.
Yes,
this, you know, a sage and seer.
Yes, exactly. Things are so. It is in us. It is so innate in the human nature that if we don't have that culture, then we just make it up in one way or another. Yeah,
we try to create it from whatever we get.
What we have.
It seems that exactly. This is a sort of a common denominator for human beings, that when we have difficulties with our survival, we need these tools, and we're trying to find them. And actually, when thinking about the popularity of sauna, it is what people always say about sauna. Why do you go to sauna? It makes me feel so relaxed. It makes me feel like grounded.
And it changes the way I feel about the world. After sauna, I'm a whole different person. I'm like born again. So that's what happens when your miniature shamanistic journey, you know, you dive to the underworld and you're born again.
Exactly. And I guess in this vein, we would like to encourage people to find the mini shaman inside of themselves in their own sauna. And then actually, like, what we noticed is that these tools that we can find, for example, from the Finnish archives, it might be a very simple, just saying, you know, kiitos löyly, or just, you know, a couple of words to thank the löyly or something like, and people say that just that tiny bit that I changed, to make it a little bit like more of a ritual, not just something material and cold and sterile, but just really a living sauna could go a long way, and that could, in this absence of these real professionals who really dedicate their whole life to being the healing member of the community, or like not the member but the one who is invited to the community, then we can use these small little things just to make it a little bit closer to the original idea of this liminal space that we call sauna.
Yeah, definitely. And it is because sauna is a very practical thing, like what we've talking about. So the sacredness of sauna is also very practical. So even if you just pause in the way you pour your water on the rocks and realize that it's an offering that you're doing, and it can be a very changing thing for your whole sauna experience. And sauna is a laboratory for life, so maybe it will change the way you view the world and way you be in the world, and so it goes on and on. So small thing can be a very big change to making your whole life more like a ritual.
Yeah, great. Exactly. And of course, these smaller things and bigger things, that's what our trainings are about. That's what we do here.
Yeah.
And what we share actually is just this ability to ritualize sauna.
Exactly.
Ritual, as we talked in our ritual episode, it is, we have rituals anyway, so why not make them meaningful? Why not make it a little bit deeper so that we could actually just not think about sauna, but feel it.
Yes, definitely. And let the rituals be in harmony with the nature as a whole, and not just with maybe today's your mood or something like that. It is nice to tie all that you do to something eternal. So it's not so shaky when the winds of the world blow you around.
Yeah. Just like our house now.
Exactly.
It's really windy, so
yes.
that's how it is today.
Yeah. And our sauna healer training, we really, because sauna healer, like a shaman, is a sort of a travel guide. So we want to take you on these practical journeys to the underworlds and to the higher worlds. And once you've been there, then you can guide others also to have those journeys.
Right. To understand something is to actually be that.
Yes.
And, that is a very important sort of cornerstone of wise person to experience these things.
Definitely.
Great. All right.
Okay.
So time to go to experience.
Yes.
You'll go for the ritual, and I'll go to plan my teachings today for tomorrow. So,
Great.
So this is how our evening will end tonight. Okay.
Kiitos, Otto.
Kiitos, Laura.